What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Rezolve. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Rezolve is down 3.27%, 660 the low, 703 the high, and 15 million shares being traded. 17.5 is the average. So fairly okay for volume. There's roughly about 6 minutes left in the trading day. On a side note, on a macro standpoint, there's been no substantial news or anything today. So it was more of a reflection day. So what has happened over this past week, technicals, what that all means for the foreseeable future, that's what kind of investors are digesting. Today, surprisingly enough, Rezolve had no news. And so this is something I did bring up that was possibly a little bit more of a red flag, even though a lot of the news that's been coming out has been actual concrete news. It hasn't been fluff. Still, it begs the question on why they are doing it. Nonetheless, though, no news today. Even on social media, they've been relatively quiet. Shorts are taking advantage and returning 524,000 shares. And this is why I like to analyze this type of information, because by shorts returning, it goes to show and signals that today's push lower isn't really justified. So that's just my opinion, of course, but 9.8% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 11.6 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 64.18, and then short score is 78.27%. One thing I do want to bring up that's relatively new information was yesterday this came out. And so right now there's about $7.28 trillion sitting in money markets. And just this last week, 19.49 billion left money markets to go into equity and crypto, those markets. So in general, this is why you do start to see the start of something potentially bigger coming. And so big money's been sitting on the sidelines, largely because they're waiting for a good catalyst. And so we had one rate cut, so 25 basis points, and Powell did allude to multiple other rate cuts coming down the pipeline in 2025. That is a good catalyst. So this is where you could potentially start to see, similar to 2021 levels, where any and every stock ran up like crazy. You could have thrown a dart at any stock and it was going to go higher because of this rotation of capital. So this isn't instantaneous, so it's not like it's going to happen next week, but over the next 6 months, possibly a year, this is where you could see a lot of big increases in the stock price. So again, it's not really kind of affecting today's price action or anything, but this is something to keep in mind that you might see a very big market expansion. Looking at the options, 2.4 million in calls, 187,000 in puts, 49% of all the options being done are bullish in nature. Again, this is why I like to analyze this information, because even though the stock price is going down, you are seeing a certain level of bullishness through the options. From the actual options that's been done so far, I'm not really a fan of the monthly chains, unfortunately, but it looks as though going into the next month, you do see a consensus for it to be above $10, and that would be encumbering their earnings, which is coming out on the 1st, October the 1st. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub $6. So there's a lot more upside than down. These are some of the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So honestly, somewhat evenly divided between buying and selling. Darkpool is a little bit quiet, but you do see some interesting transactions. So for instance, 4.2 million, 5.2, and then 2.1. Bad thing about Darkpool is can't really tell what is buys and what is sells because it's supposed to be anonymous. And so you kind of have to correlate this with the stock price, see what has happened. You can kind of look at what happened before and after, but obviously the gap between this, so this was done at 204, this one was done at 219. It's impossible to really tell whether these were buys or sells. If you kind of correlate them, which I kind of did based on the timing of it, it shows that 2 of them were buys, 1 was a sell. Of course, I think, as I've mentioned in the past, algorithmic trading has really turned against Rezolve and is starting to push a little bit lower. And you can see that based on just the flow right there. But one thing that is happening today on the weekly chart is it's breaking below that 100-day moving average. And this is something I did say that you had to kind of watch for, because that would signal more consolidation in the future. So again, just something to keep in mind. Doesn't mean it is going to happen, but it's something just to be aware of. Aside from that though, on the daily chart, still above the 10-day moving average, but as you can kind of see, there's a very big gap, potentially taking it down to 620. And one thing that I've brought up over the last couple of videos is you can kind of see right here, the lack of buyers is crazy. So again, you might see more volatility in the foreseeable future. So don't be surprised if you see some crazy days, but for going into next week, we are kind of at a key pivot point. So stay tuned for my video over the weekend where I go over some expectations and everything else that you need to keep in mind. As far as analyst ratings, last couple were on September the 15th, so nothing crazy new or anything. On a side note, if you do want to read these reports, I recommend to sign up for 𝗪𝗧𝗛, link in the description below and also the comments, because they actually do have all the paywalls completely gone. Normally you actually have to pay to actually view all of these, but luckily enough with 𝗪𝗧𝗛 they actually get rid of that. So if you want to see analyst reports, sign up again in the description below. And market just closed at 666, so that's not always a good sign. I don't know about that, but nonetheless though, with it closing where it did at, I think this trading view does take a little bit of a time to adjust, but ultimately it did close between these 2 points. So this S1 and the pivot. So 665 is going to be that strong support. Then 684 going forward is going to be the next strong target / resistance point. So let me know your thoughts on kind of what happened today and what has been happening over the last week. So just to give you a summary, so over the last 5 days, it did consolidate down 10.75%. And honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with the company itself, because the company has been putting out some pretty good concrete news, but it's just how fast Rezolve's gone up. Algorithms really focusing on other things and not Rezolve itself. So yeah, it is what it is. So I think a little bit of consolidation is rather healthy. So let me know your thoughts on Rezolve. Stay tuned for my video over the weekend. Also quickly, as I mentioned, signing up for 𝗪𝗧𝗛 for those analyst ratings. Take a look at this because if you do deposit $100 as well, they give you $50 back. So that's a pretty good promo. I believe this is only up until next week, so take advantage of this while you can. But one final thing, if you are looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, pop over to my Patreon. I give daily day trades, numerous swing trades, so worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.